This is the only direct mail configurator for Enfocus in the United States. There's no other configurator available to do direct mail, handle your CAS certification, which is your address correction, the change of address, and duplicate detection, along with postal pre-sorting and all of your mail.dat, like your electronic documentation. Soon, in the next release, we're going to be on the configurator. It'll also communicate with Postal One, giving you back your validation status or any error codes. Yeah, and all of these upgrades are free. They don't cost you a penny. Matter of fact, the configurator is free as well, and you can use it. We give you 10 jobs to process through there to get it all set up, and we only decrement the, so whatever you go with, whether it's a transactional model, which means you pay as you go, and it's really inexpensive, and Eric can send you the pricing on that later, or a subscription model, whichever one you go with. We don't decrement or charge you anything if you don't download anything relevant. So basically you can CAS, NCOA, presort, generate the eDocs and stuff, and then we give you the ability to download a preview of the print-ready file. And by downloading a preview and not the actual print-ready file, we don't charge you anything. So at least it lets you go through the whole process and see the first 25 records that are ready to go. And and then we give you there's a lot of cool things I can explain what you can get from that, but basically the process is working. And then you can go with whatever model you want, and then you're live. So basically this is the direct mail workflow, just very simplified, and you can put this in place of, like, you could have up here your pre-press stuff, like where it's bringing in files or waiting and merging together files to then push into a watch folder, which as soon as the files hit this folder, it's then processed through our workflow, the direct mail workflow, and then this is the finished product, right? So then from here, you can do all your post processes, like do your composition, and your press would be rolling with all of the pre-sorted, CAS certified, full service address labels ready to go. So you know how to, you have your objects and your folders, hierarchy and stuff, but you can put this workflow into any existing workflow. So you can have your pre-press up here, and then your other one over here where your post process. But the key is that the missing link, and that's why we created the direct mail workflow, is this web to print phenomenon. This was the missing, this was the missing link right here, is the direct mail part of it, because without it, you don't get your postal reduction unless you're doing it like you're doing everything ahead of time and then using a file that's already been pre-sorted, and then you're working it through the flow. But that doesn't make any sense if you're setting up a web to print where people are uploading a list and you want it to be through your normal workflow process and do all the QA checks and stuff like that that Enfocus Switch allows you to do. So that solves that problem, and we have the only one on the market. We won the Must See 'Em Award at Graph Expo for this configurator. It's also approved by Enfocus, so it's been certified by Enfocus. So, and the way you know that is this little, see the icon, this is our icon, but then the circle inside of the icon, that means it's been certified by Enfocus, and it's actually now part of Enfocus Switch 13. So if I typed up in the search thing here, it's actually part of the Enfocus product. And it's actually in a brand new category they call mail. So if you had downloaded Switch 13, it'll be a separate tab like it is tools here. You would have one called mail, and it would be in there. So basically with any Enfocus product, you have to at least have two folders, right? You put a file in here and it gets dragged over and put in here. So you could have your workflow above it, and then it drops into our input folder. I renamed this folder and called it input, which looks specifically at this folder right here for our demo purposes. Yep. But with Enfocus you can make it dynamic, right? So you're familiar with that. So when a file drops into here, this icon, these are basically duplicates of the same switch configurator. Okay, so this configurator right here, the way you know, this one, see how it does the update quote right here, the operation. So if I clicked here, I could change what this does just by choosing a different operation.
Oh, sure, I got you.
Yeah, so you can do upload file, update quote, which sends all the pre-sort information to the cloud or cloud server. You can get quote, which means that you can know the price of the mailing. So the nice thing about our configurator is virtually instantaneously, as soon as a file is uploaded to our server, before you do anything, we give you a quote. We give you a quote on all classes of mail and all sizes of mail to tell you the approximate postage savings. That's really important because if we tell you how much you're going to save, you can charge your customer based on that savings. Maybe, you know, instead of paying a first-class rate, they could save, you know, like on a 2,000-piece mailing, you're saving over $1,000 in postage on a flat-size mailing, standard mail versus a first-class stamp. So that savings value could offer like a save, you know, like a trigger for you to like a buy now button or proceed or something like that. So we do a quote right away. You can also you can also do CAS, NCOA duplicate detection and pre-sorting as separate functions. So you could CAS and then have the results, you know, have a QA process which moves the files to certain folders. So you know, based on the percentage of records that are CAS certified or something like that, or you can have it just do the whole thing. So people like this one. This does CAS, NCOA duplicate detection and pre-sorting all in one process. So, and that's this one. So I've set that one up to do that. This one does the update quote, which allows you to set up your mailing type, you know, your piece size, and all of that. And then this one downloads. So it's the same one. It's just the operator we chose was to download. You know, to download you get charged for this one. Download the USPS documentation, mail.dat. This one right here contains everything. It contains your hard copy eDoc, you know, PDFs. It contains your mail.dat files. It contains your print ready file, all contained in a compressed zip file. Or this one just downloads the documentation alone, the hard copy. And this one downloads the print ready file or the preview. So, for example, if I click on this one, you can see it's downloading the mail.dat. If I chose to download the print ready, you do get charged for that unless you choose no here. So this is, I'm sorry, preview, yes. So if you want to do the preview of the print ready file and choose yes, this you don't get charged for. So you can go through the whole process free. You do this, it downloads the first 25 records, you'll never be charged for those. To see the workflow in action, and by the way, I'm going to change this to a chargeable one, which is going to be this one. Download the mail.dat. This contains a zip file of everything. I just need to drop a file or files. It does multi-threaded stuff, so you can process, you know, several files at the same time. Drop it into here and then watch the workflow in action. So if I start the workflow, save changes. It's now monitoring this input folder, which is this right here, and I'll go ahead and clear the log. And I'll move this up. Okay, so there's nothing in the log. We're monitoring it, and then I'm going to actually go to that folder, which is on my D drive. And we have a switch folder, and then here's some input files. I'll just take this input file right here. I'm going to control drag it into here. So you can see it's called sample CSV. And it's going to move it. You'll see the Focus product here, see it available here in just a second. I'll kind of move this stuff out of the way so you can see it. But once it sees that it's in there, it's going to go ahead and upload it, and you'll start seeing this message area fill up. So it's going to note that it's uploading the file. It'll also note, because I didn't change the date, that it modified the date because it's the past. So I'll just kind of shrink this down so you notice it's gone from here. I'll go ahead and close this. So you can see what's happening. So right now it's CAS certifying the file. It actually corrected the mailing date because I didn't change it to today's date. We have a lot of checks and balances throughout the process to eliminate any issues at the end. So once the process is done here, as you can see, it's working through the flow right now. Through all this, you'll see if it's CAS certifying or if it's NCOA processing or if it's NCOALink. And then when it's all finished, it'll go in here. So it's actually pre-sorting it now. I'm going to go ahead and open the folder here and remove this one. This is the one that I did earlier. No, I remember I dragged the sample one in there, right? So the sample one is right here. So it's pre-sorting, and then it went past the NCOA process that quickly. So you see how fast it went through that, and now it's going to generate all your hard copy documentation, your e-documentation, and of course it's finished. So it went through those processes. This checks routinely about every few seconds. So here it is, completely done. If I open it up, there we go. So you have your documentation, you have your mail.dat, so if you have your container tags here. So there's your container tags. We keep track of all the unique values for your intelligent mail barcode if you want to use your mailer ID or not. So here's the postage statement, and we go to page 2. I don't know why it keeps reading it. There's page 2. So we got our full service card rate. Pretty cool. NCOALink. There's your CAS certificate, your qualification report, your pre-sort summary report, showing your postage savings. All nice and neat, very simple, and then you're ready to go upload your mail.dat files to Postal One. Here's your print ready file with your intelligent mail barcodes. So if we look and we compare that with the input, so if I go back to the input, which was on drive D, so you see this is what the input file looked like here.
Excuse me. Yep.
And this is what the result. So the nice thing is that we maintain your field name. So if your file contained 200 fields, for example, and let's say this was called address 1 or something like that, you can map the fields with a configurator as well. I'll show you that in a second. So you can have your own field names, whatever you want up here. And then as you can see, let me close this. So here's your input right here. And we go over here, there's your input, and then we added the rest of these fields. So we maintain your structure, and then towards the end, we added all of this value. So you added your salutation, middle name, because we do parsing. There's your carrier route, your barcode, your regular postnet barcode. There's your intelligent mail barcode. There's your digits, the actual clear text of this part of it. That's your tracking, your serial number stuff. And then there's your sequence number. You can also do it in reverse order. There's your container ID, group number, and your endorsement line. We can also, extend the configurator. So we can, like if you wanted like the rate, like out here, let's say you wanted to know how much every rate was, it can do that too. So you can actually tell the configurator to add additional fields to the output. So if you wanted the rate, or if you wanted the SIN code for the tray, or if you wanted some of the other output fields that you can get, and we have a whole list of those in our Excel document. I'll open it up here. You can create a JSON object that the configurator reads to add those fields. So the powerful thing about this is that during these settings, like where you're setting all this stuff, we also support a JSON object file, which means that you can extend it. So I have a JSON object file here. I'm going to open it up. So in this JSON object file, I can actually remap the fields if I wanted to, or I could say that I want additional fields on the output, like I could export additional fields, and we have full documentation on that, on how to create this JSON file that the configurator reads. So anything in the JSON file overrides any of these settings. So you can actually set up all of this in the JSON file, or you can do it by selecting these, or you can read from an XML document. So like, let's say you have a website that you allow your people to set up like first class mail, standard mail, and then they type in their zip code or choose cards, letters, flats, parcels, or whatever. These all can read from this is an inline value, but you can also read, use the script feature and an expression, or you can read inline values, variables through XML or JSON objects that you create. And then those will fill right in there. You have all your by-fors, your prepared, your permit numbers. You can even submit your own mailer ID. So here's the default mid right here.
Yep.
but you can actually submit your own mailer ID, and then we keep track of your uniqueness on the serial number. So if you use your own mailer ID, make sure that you use it through the Enfocus Switch. I would get a new mailer ID just specifically to use with Enfocus Switch, because if we keep track of the uniqueness and you're also using it on your side, we don't know what numbers you're using. So you can go into your gateway and assign a new mailer ID and use it for, like especially with AccuZIP. AccuZIP keeps track of your unique values, your unique numbers, if you don't want to use it outside of AccuZIP. So if you're using that same MID somewhere else, make sure that you restrict AccuZIP to use it only from a range. So, and then you can change your mailing date here. And the configurator, like I said, is free. So you can actually play with it, and you've got 10 credits. So and remember, a credit is only used when you download something other than the preview. So like I could have went through this whole process again and just downloaded the preview. So the cool thing is like I could do this. Watch, this is cool. I could say, copy this one, put it here. Copy this one, put it here. And then I could have different output folders. So I could put an output folder here, put one here, and then I can have the flow go from here to here, from here to here, and then from here to here, and then from here to here. So now I can say on this download, just download print ready file, or the preview file, right? And that'll go right in here. See? And then this one could download something else. I could download the hard copy documentation, maybe for the person that's preparing the mail. And then with the awesome features in this, I could go ahead and tell it to align horizontally and align vertically to make it all pretty. Okay, so now if I process the file, started my workflow, this time I will drag in, I'll make a copy of these two. So I have let's say I have sample 1 and sample 2. Drag them both in there. Now I'll close this. So now we have a workflow now that sees 2, and both of them will run simultaneously through the workflow to the end. They're all using that setting, but each one of them, if you wanted to, could have different settings, because remember, this right here, which is your update, which is an inline value, you could change it prior to it uploading it. So this could have, you know, kind of like a brain, right? Because it can read from an XML file. So if you provided an XML file with this, it could read from that, make the changes, then upload it, the quote. So you can see it's already here. So now it's going to go through the workflow, it'll do its CAS and presort certification, and then it'll go ahead and put all of our different outputs into these folders. See, now you can see it's running it through NCOA. The checks are, like I said, it's a very fast process, so sometimes when it checks, it's already past that process, it's into the next process. As you can see here, we have now 4 files that have the mail.dat, and if I went ahead and did this, you can see now that sample 1 and sample 2 are here. And then, now that that's done, it's going to be downloading these other ones. So once these are downloaded, remember this one was to download the print ready file, and that will appear in here. See, now there's 2 in here, so I'll go back here and open this folder. So now you just have the print ready files. So if I was to open up the print ready file, I'm sorry, these are the preview. Remember I told it to do preview? It gives you the first 25 records. And then you see your IMB digits here. And then we went to the other one here, and your IMB digits here. So this would start after the last one on the other side. So it's all, so this one must have ran first because you see it's a lower number, and then the higher number. And then finally this one, which was responsible for downloading the, let's see, go here, let's see what it was going to download. This one was probably the print ready file, I think, or was it? Oh, I never changed it, so it must be the same thing. But anyways, pretty cool stuff. Well, let's say you had different departments. Let's say you had a department which is going to handle your imposition and your print process. So you'd want him to have a CSV, not compressed or anything, ready to go, and then a post process pick it up from there. Then you could have an accounting department or something that does the billing or wants to know the postage or that kind of stuff, and then they would have maybe just the hard copy.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So then you would download, it doesn't cost you any extra, so you download the hard copy here and it comes here, and then it goes to them. You know, because if we just gave you one option to download the mail.dat, which file which contains everything, then you would have to open it up and then make decisions, which you can do. So like if it all went in here, we have an uncompress, you know, Enfocus Switch does. So then you could come here, right? And then from here, it would uncompress the files into here. Now you'd have everything in here.
Right.
And then you could branch it off into whatever you want. It doesn't cost, we don't decrement. In other words, once you've downloaded something relevant, like once you've downloaded the mail.dat, you can download it as many times as you want. We don't decrement it again. So once something's been downloaded from the job, you can download the hard copy separately and the print ready file separately too. You're not billed again and again and again for the same job. So if you download Switch 13, this is already there. You're just going to need for us to give you an API key. First of all, what I recommend, of course, is when you get it and we send you the email with the API key and the basic steps, is, you know, you probably should call and let us help you the first, you know, just let us kind of talk you through everything. Because, like, for example, on this, to make the settings, when you get it, I don't know if I can reset properties. Here we go. So if I reset the properties on these, you'll see that you need an API key, right? So if I go to settings here, update quote. So you can see that when you first get the configurator that you need to type in certain values, right? So, you know, we can talk about that. We could talk about the JSON object. We have an Excel document that shows you every setting. There's like more than 100 new settings that aren't supported in the configurator, just these pull downs. We wanted to make the configurator very simple. So these are about 99% of what you're going to need, but some people want to do some cool stuff. You know, they want to do some, like, they might want to exclude records that have a move or exclude records that move out of state. Well, we have an Excel document that gives you all of the, let me open up that Excel document for you. They give you a ton of settings. And then right here, see, these are all some of the settings like that you can send separately. So for example, let's say, I'm just trying to find, okay, it's like on the NCOA stuff. So you can add these JSON objects to control this. Like, for example, if a record moves out of state, right here, 1 to exclude, 0, it defaults to 0, right? So let's say you wanted to exclude people who moved, period, right? Yep. So all of these right here could be all added to this JSON object. So I could just do those. So I have these, and all I do is naturally you have to put quotes around them. But you can create this programmably too. And then each one of these settings would be 1. So if I did this, like that, yep, then it would automatically not pre-sort anything that moved. And you can always verify your JSON. I have this cool site. It's called Json Lint. It's a Json Validator. So you can take the file and paste it in there and then hit validate, and it says it's valid. So if I put a comma here and I validated it, it would say there's a problem because there's a comma on the last one. So then I'd say, okay, it's valid. And nice thing, it formats it. So if this was like way out there, you know, spaces, it formats it. So then I could just take it and say, okay, copy, paste. But you can see all the settings. So that's for, and this is for CAS. So on CAS, you could, like, let's say you want to also exclude vacant records, you know, right here. So you would use this number 4 filter, and I could put it right here, and now it would exclude records that are vacant. So they have a zip+4 delivery point barcode, but they're vacant. I don't want to include them in my presort. I just hit save. I do the same presort, and it'll have a different result because now it's, you know, and I would have to tell it to look at that, right? So I could close this, not save my changes, reopen it. This setting now looks at this file, which has all of those values in there. So the result in my folder here would not include records that are moved or vacant.
So I could set up like a whole bunch of different JSON files, right? And then just point it at
as many as you want.
I wanted to hit it. Cool.
Correct. And that's the beauty of this, is that you could either tell it which JSON file to look at through an inline value. Like here, you could say, choose a, you know, define the single line text with variable. So you could have it look at different JSON based on a variable.
Okay.
You know, but Enfocus Switch is very powerful. You know, if you know how to use it, you can really set it up pretty cool.